We are super proud to announce that Stay Plugged In is now sponsored by HyperX for our online events for the month of August. Prizes will include a Cloud Stinger wireless headset and a Cloud Stinger wired headset for our Turbo Tuesday tournaments for the first and second winning teams. And then for our Valorant tournaments, which are every other week on Thursdays and Fridays, that will be the Alloy Origins Core Mechanical Gaming Keyboard, HX Red, and the Pulsefire FPS Pro Gaming Mouse, which the keyboard is for first place and the mouse is for second place. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Spincast. Today, we are joined by Tyler Suggs. He is a photojournalist from the station WSOC-TV here in Charlotte, where Stay Plugged In is local too. Today, we're going to dive into the media side and the news side of esports and what the industry looks like and where we hope to see it grow, both in Charlotte and on that larger industry scene. So without further ado, Tyler, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us where your passion started in esports, kind of how that carried you down your life path to where you currently are now, as an esports enthusiast and doing that esports work with the news at WSOC-TV.
Well, gaming has always kind of been, I guess, growing up in the 90s, gaming was just part of your day-to-day. Not once did it ever cross my mind that one day we would be having this kind of discussion and this kind of platform where you've got people making millions of dollars, thousands of dollars, just going all these tournaments and playing from home. Like back then it was just like, hey, let's round up the kids in the neighborhood, let's play some Halo, and that's it. And that's just kind of where it spanned for me was Halo. Like I played, Super Mario and things like that, but there was just something about the multiplayer with Halo and playing with other people that just had me dive more in. And then from there, I ended up getting a job at GameStop, and then it became a store manager, and just kind of gaming just became a huge part of my life. And I wanted it to be more. And for a while, I actually ran a podcast with a couple buddies of mine called the Furious Fancast. But then when I went off to school, I was doing my master's and the workload just got too much. And we kind of had to put that on the back burner for a while. But, flash forward to now, I've got my degree. I'm working at a well-established station that has, a good reputation. And it's one of the best in Charlotte. And I've been kind of pitching them, little ideas here and there. There's been a couple events that we've gone to, and I spoke with Big West over at Hornets Venom and things like that. So just trying to branch it out, but to them it's not a platform that they're used to. So there's a lot of questions behind it. And and I'm sure, as you've seen at some events, some gamers aren't as PC as they should be, especially when you're wanting to do these live things. So ultimately, my goal is I want to become like an esports reporter, to where I'm sitting down on the daily and I'm interviewing gamers. I'm interviewing people that are setting up these events, talking about what's going into it and how those in the community can make it better and spread it out. And that's just kind of what's brought me from, I guess, a quick gaming life biography of me.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would love just to, start with that introduction to give, the audience a little bit of basis of where you come from, where your passions lie within the esports industry, because it's so massive and there's so many places that you can end up, and kind of just showing that from your perspective is awesome. Kind of diving right into your particular work with photo journalism. That's so centric to esports, but I think a lot of people don't realize that abruptly. So kind of a two-part question here. Take us through a day-to-day of what, a coverage of an event looks like from your perspective, what goes into it, the work, and also that second part is how does that apply to esports, and then how does that help esports from a visibility or an outreach perspective?
Well, from the get-go, usually when I'm going to an event, I'll know kind of the length of the story that I'm ultimately editing together. So if I'm going to do just a short little snippet, it's going to be anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds. So you've really got to pick out the key highlights and get some really good footage to cram into that little short time worth the viewers' time. But then as the importance of the event, or maybe it's a slow day on news and there's not as many stories, well, they might give you 3 minutes. Well, 3 minutes is almost it feels like a feature film whenever it comes to news. because everything is so fast paced and cut. So if I have that much time, which is what I prefer, I'm able to sit down with people, get interviews. I'm able to go around and really like focus on the different gamers and watch the setup, and I can kind of tell the story through what I edit and put together. And that's what I try to do. But most of the ones that we've done, unfortunately, have been kind of quick snippets, and they're kind of seeing how the audience that they have now is reacting to them. And as you know, each week goes by, they're realizing that there's more importance within esports. But now with this whole, with everything going on with the coronavirus and everything, that's kind of taken like top priority over everything. Like, so it's like most of the show is covering, you know, anything and everything dealing with that virus. So it's kind of difficult to get those things, those stories out that are going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like going off that point, the esports industry, like, you know, really wants that mainstream kind of coverage, right? We get our own coverage, right? Twitch is kind of like the centric platform for media. And, you know, having that viewership outlet's fantastic, but Twitch is for gamers, right? It's watched by gamers in the most part. It's not that mainstream like WSOC-TV or ESPN or NBC, like, you know, massive channels and news stations that do real coverage that people watch, and that those live news at, you know, 10 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon and at night, which is so important because that's how you get that next level of people that have heard about esports but not necessarily know what it is.
Yeah, because everyone going to Twitch ultimately knows what they're going to get when they go to Twitch. I mean, you've got an entire library right there. It's like, what game you want to watch today? Oh, I want to watch someone play this game. And then, you know, you just sit and you watch. And but on news, you've got your whole schedule thing, and you've got that one slot of the day that you're going to be giving out news. But that one slot, you're reaching, you know, tens of thousands of people, especially depending on the market that you're in. And Charlotte's a pretty big market, so it spans pretty far. And there's a lot of people within our area that I know would be into esports and would love to not only just watch it, but probably get into it and play more of it if they really saw the other side of it. Because to a lot of people, they think it's, oh, you're just sitting around wasting your time playing video games. You ain't going to amount to anything. You can't. That's not a real job. But when you look at it, like you said earlier, there's so much technical stuff that goes in it. You don't even have to be a gamer to be in esports. Like me, I'm a photojournalist. I'm a cameraman. I mean, I still play Rocket League and Halo with my friends. I'm not good at all. I get ruined every time, but I enjoy it. And because I enjoy it, I take my passion of cinematography and photojournalism, and I try to find ways that I can implement that into it. And so now if you've got people that are, you know, doing, you know, that do computer builds, or they're, you know, they're good with networking, or they're just good with marketing, there's all those things that are coming together that are making esports bigger. Because I mean, like for example, Charlotte Phoenix, like I remember interviewing Jeff later last year about it, and seeing how small his team was then and to now. I mean, look how many, you know, they've got so many different games that they're representing with different teams. They've got, you know, social media content creators. They've got all these different people now working together, and it's continuing to grow. And that's what I think is really important for everyone to see, that it's not just people gaming. There's a whole kind of behind the veil kind of thing. You've got a lot more working hands going on than people realize.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a number of points I'd love to expand on, and just to comment on a few, it's a lot of parents come up to me, you know, I deal with a lot of kids, right? Introducing to esports, the right way to game, and all the opportunities that come out of it, you know, video editing, content creation, streaming, casting, and so many more as they advance their skill sets and careers. I always challenge parents of, name one industry that I can't relate to the esports industry, whether that's legal work or medicine or marketing or design. Like every single one has its part of the esports industry. And that's how, you know, holistic and inclusive that esports is. Every other industry has its role in it. And without it, if you overlook it, then you're downplaying what esports really is. So I always love to point that out. Kind of moving on to my next question is, you know, all the work you've done in photojournalism, if we are able to, like, you know, and capture these esports events and get them on these mainstream news channels, right? You know, WSOC-TV is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, local station for Charlotte and the surrounding area. If we're able to, like, get that on those, you know, prime time slots of even 30 seconds, or obviously the ideal would be 3 minutes, what do you think that enables esports to do or grow or, you know, improve? What do you just think that helps elicit for esports?
Well, one great example is I don't know if you're familiar with Landon Huffman. He was a driver for NASCAR, but he's kind of taken on the esports scene in a whole way that's just like blown up. And now you've got people that enjoy certain sports like football, baseball, you know, hockey, racing, all these things that don't even know that there's these virtual gaming events going on where they could literally watch the exact same thing that they watch. It's not necessarily you're watching these live players, you know, play this sport, but you're watching a team of people come together, work together, communicate together, come up with plans for both offense and defense, and it's still enjoyable. And once, because everyone likes to be entertained, and their body, and I feel like if just given the right information and just put in the right light, people will open up to it more and want to see it more. And that's one of the things I've been like, every time I get an opportunity, I'm shooting stories to our sports department, because ultimately that's going to be where it's probably going to branch out of. It's not going to branch out of, you know, investigative journalism or you know, school or things like that. It's going to probably come out of sports. And we, you know, that's where all the stories that we've done so far have aired through, is in the sports segment. But unfortunately with sports, that's already a condensed version of the overall newscast as it is. Mm-hmm. So whatever goes in, you've got all these different sports that you're trying to cram in to these, you know, this little window. So one thing I think would be beneficial for major news outlets to do is maybe preview within their primetime show, you know, when they're giving the news, maybe give like a little snippet teaser about something, but then have it redirected to their website, to where they're constantly streaming on. And a lot of the devices have you can download like a WSOC app where you can constantly get news. So if, just like Twitch, if people want to watch it, they'll find a way to watch it. Mm-hmm. And with, you know, Twitch, you can get it on your iPad, your iPhone, your computer, literally any device, you can download that and you can watch it. And then I feel like if these major news networks realize that, they could promote a little bit of it within their prime time, but then redirect traffic elsewhere to where they're able to focus on more content and building their audience and reaching a demographic that they're not really used to reaching. Because you've kind of got, everyone's kind of got like, I mean, from when I was a little kid, I mean, I always remember watching, you know, remember my dad like, all right, it's 5 o'clock, let's tune into the news, let's see what happened today, you know? So you've got that, those people that are kind of in that like kind of ritualistic thing where they just love to watch the news, but they don't branch outside of that. But if they see that there is this other thing that exists, like esports and all this other gaming, then maybe they may venture out like, oh, let me take a look at this. Oh, this is pretty cool. Because a lot of people don't, you know, some people like whether they would have hand problems or they get seizures or they can't focus on gaming, they could still watch it and then they still get that enjoyment. And especially with a lot of like the content creators, they get real personal with their fans. Because it's not just like, hey, I'm tuning in and watching this guy play. This person is literally at the bottom of the screen chatting with you, having a conversation with you, connecting with you. You don't get that with real sports. With real sports, everyone's on the field, they're doing their thing. You might get to, you know, lean over the sidelines and grab an autograph or something possible, but you're not going to be able to have like a personal connection. And I think that's one thing that really helps esports, is because once someone's done streaming online, people are going straight to Twitter or to Discord, and they're continuing chats about, oh, that match was awesome, did you see this? And they're creating their own highlight reels and things like that. And there's just so much that can happen from it. And I'm ready to see it explode, you know, because there's so much potential.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really can't agree more with what you just said and all those number of different points. And I think especially in a little bit of a different sense, same focus is like collegiate sports, right? If I say Trevor Lawrence or Kyler Murray, like everyone knows who they are, right? You know, collegiate stars, or Kyler's obviously in the NFL now, but Trevor Lawrence is predicted to win the Heisman. Everyone knows them, but like, who's a good collegiate player right now, right? That's a whole nother little space of esports that needs to grow, is collegiate esports. And that's something that once it becomes mainstream, you're going to see all these cyclical, you know, snowball effects. where, like you said, they have the ability to go and interact with these players in Discords, on social media, in their Twitch streams, after they go play in these, massive LAN events or online events. Obviously right now everything's online, but that's one of the beauties. And also, kind of to that point, is I watch Rainbow Six Siege is kind of my game. I follow that professionally, and after my favorite team, they go on the Rainbow Six page, and they their match is streamed, and it's a league match or whatever, and then they're done, and then they go fire up their personal stream. They interact with all their fans, right? Of talking through, like, if they lost, why'd they lose? These are the mistakes we made. This is what we're going to focus on. Or if they win, it's like a hype party, right? Everyone's hyping them up. Congratulations, on and on. And that's awesome. And I can't wait to see that become mainstream for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Because, excellent point. Because you've got the team playing together. They're working together, but then they go back on their own channels, and then they kind of go over, and then you've got your viewers that are watching the game from a perspective that you don't have, and then that's when the viewer could say, "Hey, so I noticed that so and so did this move. What if you tried this next time?"
Yep.
And then they could then go in their separate stream, kind of practice on that move, and then next time they compete, it's another strategy that they can add to their arsenal.
Yep, exactly. And that's just, I think, one of the core beauties of esports is that level of engagement between, the higher ups, the high tier players, whether it's content creators or streamers or pros, that play in the professional orgs, with their fan base at that amateur level. And I think kids get a lot of great, avenues from that, of being able to interact with these people and, make their own game better, that you don't see in traditional sports, right? You only see the Panthers really play on game day, right? You don't see their practices.
Right.
Even there's only such a very low level of interaction that they can do, because they're so cut off from their fan base, for a number of different reasons, not necessarily bad reasons by any means. It's just kind of the way the NFL operates, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I remember growing up, when I was around 13 to 15, my dad would take me to Spartanburg, and we would go to the training camp. And that was about the extent of it. If you didn't go to a game, the training camp was your only other opportunity to try to meet and interact with some of these players. But how it gets in the summertime. It's hot. They're running up and down. They're tired. They don't have the energy that you would want them to have, nor would they like to have while interacting with their fans. Mm-hmm. And I feel like with esports, everyone's in a nice, cool room. We're online, and with everything going on, you're able to still interact with people, keep a connection while still keeping that, that distance that's required.
Exactly. Yeah, and especially in the current circumstances with COVID-19. I always say, to parents that are worried, it's well, esports is socially distanced, right? A computer setup on average is about 6 feet away from the next computer setup, because wiring and the machines and kind of how the space is just divided up.
Exactly.
Usually you're about 6 feet away from your teammate, maybe a little bit closer when there's no COVID, but I'd say minimum 4 feet, just because of spacing, right? With keyboard and your mouse and your monitors. Usually it really is about 6 feet. It is social distance. You're not sharing the same surfaces. You really are playing safe. And the great thing for everybody is that they're still engaged and they're excited, which is ultimately what I think esports really kind of enables for so many kids that, maybe aren't interested in football, or they're not interested in baseball, but they want to go play Rocket League or Halo or Call of Duty or Fortnite, whatever, right? Fortnite obviously being massive, but they want to go do that. And I just want to help these kids be able to pursue their passions in a constructive way for long-term success into the collegiate and into the professional workforce. But unfortunately, we are running out of time. I would leave everybody with one last question before we wrap up, is kind of thinking a little bit in the future about, I'd say about 3 years down the line. Where do you see the esports industry growing in your perspective? And what measures of success do you want to see come to fruition to really be, okay, this is exactly what, mainstream media needs to do or accomplish, or what you think they're going to accomplish in that 3 year time frame?
Well, it's the one thing that because I've been trying to create some plans on how, if they ever, once they kind of want to get that ball rolling, is with everything going on Twitch, we can tune in on Twitch. We can request, access to record the Twitch streams. Then we can create highlight reels in-house at the station. And then all we need to do is, throw one of the sports reporters in front of the green screen or on the desk, and they can just quickly, they can go over what just happened. There's not necessarily where we have to have a reporter and a camera crew at every single event.
Yep.
Now, if it's like a big, huge, world event where, it's being hosted locally, you maybe have a cameraman there so you can kind of get the audience side of it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're just wanting to get the visuals of the actual match itself, I mean, you've got Twitch, you can pull from Twitch, and then you can create highlight reels just like they do with, baseball and football and everything. They
Yep.
pull the best parts and you run it down. And I feel like that's going to be the first step to some bigger things when it comes to making esports more mainstream, when it comes to like these major news networks.
Exactly. I think I said it earlier. That's the next hurdle for esports, right? Esports is already massive. It's bigger than almost every American traditional sports league, except I think the NFL is the only one that's bigger for like viewership and revenue. And obviously world soccer, global soccer, and European soccer is way bigger than that. But the projection shows that, esports as an industry is going to just wipe them off the face of the earth in viewership, and everyone's so involved. But it's just, getting the mainstream media to catch on and be like, oh, we need to actually cover this, right? So everyone that's heard of esports, mom, dad, and people that just aren't associated or as familiar with the competitive side of it, everything that goes in behind the scenes and the audience and the engagement kicks it to that next level. So
and I think
I want to see it. Go ahead.
And I think a big thing would be like, kind of like how, there's business news reports. There should be a technical report of all these matches, because I mean, there's matches that get tens of hundreds of thousands of people tuned in watching. Yeah, they may have an event, and you might, if prior to COVID, you'd have maybe 1,000, 2,000 people kind of in an arena watching. But back home, you've got tens, hundreds of thousands of people tuning in and watching. And I think once the mainstream realizes the scale of how many people are watching, they'll realize, okay, well, we can reach these people by showing their content and then also introducing them to other content that we have to offer. Because that might be a way to get, the younger people into news and kind of into current events and kind of staying update on, whether that's politics or just local news, crime, things like that. You got to find a way to just mend the two together.
Yep, absolutely. Totally agree there. I think that's that next step is I think, both offer the other industry a lot, right? In the esports sense to the news, like the news needs to, target a demographic that doesn't watch news much. Mostly the primary demographic of esports, is, younger males. And, a lot of us, me being one of them, 23, we don't watch the news, at 11 o'clock like, my mom or my dad does, because there's nothing that's interesting to us on it. But esports is interesting. So we'll turn on a Twitch stream, right? Or go to a Twitter page for an esports news outlet, rather than a local station that covers esports. I think that'd be way more interesting. And then also on the flip side, esports needs that mainstream news media, because a lot of the news coverage is game specific, right? Like if it's a Rainbow Six event, then the Rainbow Six news team or media team is covering it, right? Which it's bias in itself by definition, but like not bad bias, but like you don't get that media kind of feel and look that you do from like WSOC-TV or local channels or, major national news networks like ABC or NBC or ESPN and so on and so forth. So I'm excited to see that come to fruition. But we are out of time. Fantastic discussion with you, Tyler. Super excited that we were able to sit down and discuss the media.
Thanks for having me.
Side. Absolutely. Real quick, go ahead, plug yourself. Tell us where we can find you, keep up to date with your work, and then obviously plug any other affiliations or WSOC-TV if you want.
Right now you can find me on Xbox, Spidey Suggs, SPIDEY, SUGGS. Usually it's Rocket League or Halo, but I'm always up to playing something else. And then you can also find me on YouTube. Just search Tyler Suggs Productions, and then you'll see it pop right up, and you'll actually see not only some of my gaming, some of like short films and things that I've done prior to really stepping fully into esports and news. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone go check him out. I know there's a lot of good work over there. Once again, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me and stay plugged in on the Spincast. To all our viewers out there, thanks for staying the entire time. Stay healthy and stay happy in the current pandemic. Make sure you're taking care of yourself and your loved ones. Be safe, be sensible, and ultimately, stay plugged in.